Okay guys, today we are going to be doing a how-to gear reduction on a 2020 XP Turbo 64 wide machine. We got a cryo heat retainer and all things UTV gear reduction, 57% I believe. So we're gonna start by dropping the fluid out of it, which we already did, and then we'll jack it up, we'll pull the axles, we'll pull the cover, we'll pull the clutches, we'll pull the clutch cover. I'll pick up there on the clutch cover because you guys know how to pull axles and radius rods and whatnot. So we'll get a time lapse going. All right, axles are out of it. Up next, we'll pull these Torx bits. Those are the cover mount, and then these are actually the trans mount that mount the trans to the engine. We'll pull those. We'll undo the drive shaft bolts. There's the rear motor mount over here, and then there's the shifter. You just loosen this and pop this off, take this 10 mil off or 12 mil off, undo the sensor here. There's one breather up top you got on clip, and then here's the nuts for those trans mount bolts that are on the other side that I was just pointing at. But then we should be able to finagle it out. The intakes do hang a little low, so you have to just turn it just right to get it out, but we'll do a time lapse of getting that out. That trans seal's blown too.
It shifts fine, drives fine. Fuck, I don't know.
When we drained it, this came out. It was stuck to the magnet. It looks like a piece of a snap ring. So we got the trans out. As you guys seen, we're about to open it up and find if there's any carnage in there. Because yeah, hopefully the snap ring just broke the ear off and it's still clasped and didn't run through the teeth of the gears or anything like that. We'll find out. So first thing, we're gonna take the sensor off, snap ring. We'll pull the shifter selector off. I think that's a 12 mil. And then all these 8s or 10s, pull that cover off. There's a spring in there with a mechanism that you gotta figure out. You gotta watch how it comes apart because it goes back the same exact way, obviously. So we'll do that now. So you pull the shift lever off, it's keyed. So it can only come off on one way. It's got a snap ring and a 12 mil. And then, or it doesn't have a snap ring, just a 12 mil. This has a snap ring. This lifts off, pries off. Then the cover. You got your actuator here with the spring. We already took it apart. The spring goes in there like that, attached to that arm on the shifter indicator. And then you can just pull this little gear off, this gear out. And they can only go back together one way. So now we're gonna pull the case apart and see what's inside. This came apart decent. We don't see anything crazy going on. We're gonna pull the gear set out of it. Obviously, we'll be replacing this smaller gear on this one with this guy here, and then this whole gear set goes in the middle here, and then the gears go in a couple other places, but we'll update you as we go. So we just did this gear, pretty easy. This bearing pulls off. There's a snap ring right in there, washer, that gear. This one is the one that came off. You can see it's quite a bit larger. What's that?
Make sure he knows about the washer.
Yeah, there is a washer that goes in there. We put it back together without the washer. You can see it right in between there. So this is the first one. Obviously, that's a giant difference in gear. The next one we're going to do is this guy here, swapping out this pulley for this one here. So we'll pull that bearing off. There should be one snap ring and a washer again, and then that should come off. We got this gear done. Bearing comes off, another washer, RC snap ring washer, this gear here. The gear reduction gear is actually quite a bit bigger. We're just using the press, putting it in there, pushing the bearing off. Same thing with the gear, pushing it back on with the press. Now we got to replace this whole shaft, and you'll see there's bearing, needle bearings, these dogs, this gear, should be a snap ring, another gear. All of it's got to come off. Very important to keep track of how they go. So we'll just kind of put them in a row as we take them off. And then the replacement shaft replaces that gear right there in the middle, smaller gear. So we'll get to that. So on further review, we found our broken snap ring on this gear set. You can see there it is right there. It's missing the ear. So it didn't come from what we originally thought, snorkel gear inside there. We thought that it worked its way through the bearing. The bearing looks good, so I was questioning it, but there she is. So we'll have to get a new snap ring. Hopefully the hardware store has one. We'll get this one out, continue tearing down this gear, and then we're going to be at a standstill until we figure out this snap ring situation. All right, guys, so that broken C-clip, we ended up having to kind of mutilate it to get it out. But we got it out. He was not able to find another C-clip for this stack here. So I ended up, that transmission that I have, tearing it apart, stealing a C-clip out of it, just so that we could get this one together and out of here down the road. So we got it together. It's pretty easy putting this all back in. They all just drop into place just like the way they come apart. With the main gear going here, and then everything else just kind of drops into place. These two gears here you got to line up, and then your shift fork you drop down, you put it between the two dog ears, two gears, bottom and the top. The pins line up in this. We took the case and put it together, bolted it together, sucked it down, put the shifter on it, shifted through the gears, spinning the drive shaft to make sure the axle cups were spinning the correct way. They were, so now we pulled it back apart. We're going to silicone the two cases together in the shifter case, and then he's getting some fluid right now. We'll put it back in the car and get everything going. We are going to replace the axle seals. He's got new ones. It's a good idea to replace those while it's out. It's just easy and good insurance. But yeah, pretty straightforward. I didn't show replacing the plate for the pinion, the pinion drive trans gear, I guess you'd call it. The thicker, he's got a cryo heat one in here, retainer plate. You have to pull this gear set apart to get the plate off because it will not fit over the bearing. So you just pop this bearing off up here. This one can kind of be a pain just because it's hard to get anything under there. I used a bearing puller in my vise. I had to make a little bit longer stud, pressed it out, and then pulled this bearing off once you got the C-clip out, and then the retainer plate came out, slipped the new one on. Red Loctite those. I went pretty tight on them, just I worry about that, but they have red Loctite, so yeah, pretty straightforward. Sorry I didn't show that part, but I mean, it's kind of a rinse and repeat process as far as the way those other gears are. I mean, you just press a bearing off and a C-clip, snap ring, pull another gear off. These bearings I do just hammer them back on with a mallet and a piece of wood. They're not on there, very hard, I guess you'd say. But yeah, we'll get these two silicone together and then do a time lapse of putting it back in the car. All right, so gear reduction's done. Just filming a quick outro, I guess you'd say. We did run into that broken snap ring, like I said. When we pulled the plug, that was stuck to the magnet. So that set us back. Fortunately, I had the transmission that I picked up the other day for an up-and-coming project. So I just stole the snap ring out of that one to get that transmission back together for that machine, get it down the road. We'll get a new snap ring for mine. I'll put it together. I also want to do a gear reduction in this transmission. Not ready to do it yet. I just want to get this project going and then it'll all make sense. But we got that whipped. I think that machine's going to be going to Moab with us as well. So that's why we wanted to get that knocked out real quick. We got another project in the shop already. Don't know if I will film that or not. Yeah, I mean, we're just going to keep plugging away. We got a few more things to do to prep for Moab. We'll get it all buttoned up, and I guess you'll see some riding content. That'll be probably the next thing you guys see after this video. I'm hoping anyway. So we'll see you there.